Good evening. And I first want to thank Boulder Bookstore for giving me the opportunity to speak about my new book, that's called Non-Dual Love. Well, what inspired me to write this book? The inspiration came of writing a series of books about love, 3 of them. The first one came out 2 years ago about love unveiled. This is the second one, non-dual love. Third one going to probably be called The Beloved. And the whole series inspiration came all at once together. And for 2 reasons. First is that I wrote many books about the work I do, the work we have, this teaching, the diamond approach. And because I was first introducing things that are new to the spiritual field. And, ways of working with oneself, qualities or dimensions of our essential or spiritual nature that are not spoken of as clearly, as completely, or not mentioned at all, like the Pearl Beyond Price, for a book written about the Pearl Beyond Price. The point of existence, there is a mention of a point in some Indian teaching, but nobody really write the whole thing. And what's it about? What's it related to? And things like runaway realization, about how realization doesn't have an end. You don't just have one realization, you stop. Realization keeps, developing. So I was introducing things that are not known. But then I realized that many people are going to take a down approach as if it doesn't have heart, doesn't have love, because although I mentioned love here and there, because the motive operandi for this teaching is the love for truth. So I decided I should write something about how this teaching has lots about love. It focuses on love a great deal, and in many ways. So this is showing the love facet of this teaching. The other part is a contribution to the spiritual literature, as usual, I do in my book, which is, even though there are many things written about love, actually there's more written about love spiritually than any other quality of spiritual nature. However, it's rarely you find a book that writes exactly how love, what's it feel like, besides it's melting and loving and this and that. What is it like when you feel it in your heart? What's the feeling is? What is the medium? What's the texture? What is the flavor? What is the taste? What's the color? So those kind of things are important in the books I'm writing about love. And also, what are the specific obstacles that prevents us from experiencing those love qualities? Of course, implicit here, that is not just love and that's it. Love comes in qualities and dimensions and many ways that I have in this teaching. So the second book is about boundless or non-dual love, which is not just love that we feel in our heart, and we could feel like appreciative love we feel towards somebody, or passionate love, the passion towards God or the divine or another human being or thing, passionate, wanting and liking and appreciating. Now, all these are what I call individual expressions of love, which is the topic of the first book, Love Unveiled. This one, non-dual love, is about a dimension of love as infinite dimension of being, That's one way our being, our true nature, our essential nature, our spiritual nature manifests itself in experience of individuals as a whole ocean made out of love, the substance of love, like a medium. And I go into details about what's it feel like, what's the experience is like, what perception from there appears like, how we perceive the world, how we feel about ourselves individually, and how do we experience it from an individual perspective, how do we experience it as an ocean without shore. And also in the book is about some of the obstacles that called issues arise as we learn to experience it and integrate that dimension. So this book basically shows how love appears in the non-dual experience. Non-dual mean nothing separate from anything else, but non-duality mean has to do nothing in the universe is separate from anything else. It's all one manifestation. So this book, Non-Dual Love, shows how love can be seen at the ground of this non-duality, because usually non-duality is seen as the ground of it as consciousness or awareness. And here I want to show it is true. We can experience the ground of non-duality, consciousness, or awareness or emptiness, but also this ground can be experienced as pure love, as pure, sweet, appreciative, generous, overflowing, field of love. Yeah, so usually in our teaching, we refer to this dimension as divine love. I don't usually call it non-dual love. We use the title of the book as non-dual love. But this dimension of love, I call it divine love because it, first of all, is not individual. It's not about a human being feeling something, although a human being can embody it, express it. But it's divine in the sense we can experience it as infinite, as holding the whole universe. So it's like the heart of God. If God has a heart, it will envelop, include everything, come through everything. So it's divine partly because it doesn't have self, it's selfless. It's not an individual experience, somebody experiencing love. It is the love of something transcendent, something infinite. And it is love of something transcendent, which is true essential nature or spiritual nature. But the love itself is also transcendent and cosmic. And it's divine also because it melts the individual. It melts the separateness. And feels divine. I mean, the feeling, the effect of it is like its luminosity, its beauty, its purity. You can't but say it's holy, divine, something like that. I never try to make somebody shift their focus. If you really stay with the individual experience of spiritual nature, of presence or love, it will naturally itself shift toward a larger, more expanded field. So what starts as an individual experience become a cosmic experience. What starts as a limited field of love becomes an infinite, shoreless ocean of love. It happens by itself. It is the nature of spiritual spirit. It's the nature of the true spiritual love. It will open up itself from one quality to another, from one dimension to another. So there's no need to look for it, no need to orient oneself for it. You just need to feel the heart open and experiencing true spiritual love, which means not emotional love, not a reactive love, not historical love, love that comes from this very moment, from this very heart, the heart of being itself. So it's real, it's in the moment, it's spontaneous. And when you feel that love, it will naturally transform and expresses more of its possibilities. The common obstacle in non-dual love is the main one, most common, is the same obstacle to any non-dual experience, which is a sense of separateness, of believing I am a separate entity. That become an obstacle to experiencing the non-duality or the infinity or the boundlessness of this presence of love. But there are other common obstacles for most people, which is how they feel about love, whether they feel they are loved, not loved, they're worthy of love or not, there's love or not, believing there's goodness in the universe or not. Those common things can't become an obstruction, because if you recognize this divine love, you realize there is goodness everywhere in reality, but unseen and by most people, and hence not recognized. When we're experiencing it, when we manage to experience it, to keep paying attention to it, to keep abiding there, not to get distracted from it, and to keep being aware of what comes up as obstacle, what limits it, what blocks it, and not to push away those obstacles, but to welcome them into the love and have the love illuminate them with understanding, with clarity. And that way they can dissolve in the love. That's true. One chapter is called Jabba the Hutt. The reference here, Jabba the Hutt, is when we experience the shell of the ego from the perspective of divine love, we see it as a fattened up, greedy kind of entity that's wanting more of everything and not caring about anybody. That is the very essence or the core of the ego. So I think of it like similar to Jabba the Hutt and Star Wars. But there's a more description of it phenomenologically and psychologically that explains why I use that image, Jabba the Hutt, to refer to how the ego is seen from clarified as from the perspective of this love, which is just goodness and giving and consideration and tenderness. Where Jabba the Hutt is greedy, fat in the sense of overstuffed with stuff of the world. One book I read, I have it here next to me, it's called The Life of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. This is the book by Jamyang, and it's in translation by Matthew Helter. It is the Wangpo, Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, is the main person who started what's called the Reformation or regeneration period of Tibetan Buddhism at the end of the 19th century. It's called the Rima movement, R-I-M-E, the Rim or Rima movement, which is the movement that started in all of Tibet. He was the main person who started it. And he brought he learned all the lineages that are pleasant, all the teaching, and taught them again, regenerated them, because Tibetan Buddhism was declining. And he became one of the greatest then, the history of Tibetan Buddhism. And then, of course, he has emanation then later on, or incarnation. One of his emanation is Delgu Khyentse Rinpoche, for instance, in the 20th century. And I like the book. I like to read about the movement, about this person. And by reading it, I realized I had a personal connection to him, which made me study it even more. They should read it. That's how they could know more about this book, is by reading it. There's a lot there, actually. The book goes all the way from the human being that is impacted by this love, the human being being absorbed in this love, and this love manifesting through the human being, how love is not, people don't see it around. Why not? People say, well, because it shows the actual true goodness that is a reality, and people look around these days and say, where's the goodness? I don't see goodness. There may be a little thing here and there. Most of the time it's trouble and hatred and violence, and that is very true. So this book explains how come we don't see the love? How come we see trouble and not see the love? Because it is not apparent for most people. It's only the people who experience it is apparent to them. They say, oh, there's love. Everything's made out of love. Like when I am feeling it, when other people experience it, they say, well, that's what non-dual love mean. Reality is made out, just like they say reality, everything made out of consciousness. Here, everything made out of love, which means pure goodness, heart kind of goodness. Not just goodness in meaning sense, precious, indestructible. No, goodness in the sense, heart goodness, goodness that want other people and being to be happy, to thrive. So that's an important thing to learn, and the book addresses that a great deal. And also, the book brings out, well, how does it transform the human being, the human soul? What kind of being we become? How we can express this love in our world? How we become what I call beings of light, offsprings, like offsprings of love, offspring of the divine. That's why there's a chapter called the body of light, which means a human being becomes a body of light, because this love is both love and light, and at the same time. One side it's luminosity, light, the other side sweetness, love, appreciation. And so the offspring of the divine, is similar to what some tradition call the son of God. However, here it's not the son or daughter of God in the sense of a special person, but each human being can be and recognize themselves as an offspring of this divine, because we are a manifestation of it. That's an important thing. In the book talks about blessing, about barakah, or blessing, or grace. How's that related to love? What kind of blessing there are possible? Like a general and particular or specific blessings. So, not remembering all the chapters, and of course, I go through in more detail in terms of what are the barrier, obstacle, or limitation to experiencing this love, integrating it, and becoming part of what we are, and part of how we live our life. There's a lot actually in the book. So it's good when somebody reading it to not just read it like a newspaper or a novel, but to really contemplate what you read, because each paragraph can't take a contemplation, half an hour of contemplation, if you're really serious about it. Well, one thing I want to add is in learning, if somebody learning, reading this book and learning about non-dual love, they're learning about themselves, who they are, what their true essential nature is, and they're learning about some true dimension of the whole universe, of all of reality, how we can see reality and from a different perspective than the usual individual or the limited egoistic perspective. Like it is a potentiality for a human being to see the universe in different ways than we usually see it. And this dimension, this non-dual love, gives us the possibility, gives us the view, opens the eyes in a way of seeing the universe and reality and recognizing it differently. We say, oh, the universe has a beauty that is, even regardless of how beautiful nature is, how beautiful we see the cosmos and all those photographs and videos. The beauty from this perspective is completely of a different order. And so it teaches us about what is us, each of us human being, how we can be, and how we can see all of reality, not just our particular environment. I think that's important for any spiritual quality, and love. This particular love shows not only what we are, but also what is the universe, not just as pure consciousness, but as a pure goodness. Just like Plato said, called his main idea, Platonic idea, the good. He called the good. Here, I really go in detail. What is the good? What did he mean by the good? So I wish for people to benefit from it. That's the point of the book. I want people's life to be enriched, their experience of themselves to be enriched, and for them to be more true human beings, which means relate to other human beings as with spiritual maturity that includes heart and love and giving and sensitivity and generosity and receptivity and appreciation. That's the point of really publishing the book. It's not just I want people to know something about this teaching. No, I want people to benefit from it. That's what the teaching is about anyway, for people to learn about themselves and reality and benefit and live a more true and fulfilled life. That's my wish, really, for everybody who reads the book or watches this talk, this presentation. Well, I appreciate you listening to me, watching this presentation, this new book. It does take some time from your life, and I hope it will be good for you. But I appreciate you being here and giving me an opportunity to speak to you heart to heart. And I also, again, want to remember, all of us to remember, this is presented by Boulder Books. And I want to thank them for that opportunity again. We all need to thank them for that. So have fun traveling with this book.